What's up? So today I wanted to kind of introduce my channel a little bit to the Schumann resonance. I have a lot of in-person conversations about it, and it seems to be like something that isn't very known about. I talk about it a lot because I use it for several different things. The Schumann resonance is these charts. I don't know if you've ever seen them or heard somebody talk about them, but they're the charts that scientists use to study the electricity on Earth. And what that means is lightning hitting the Earth's surface into the ionosphere in simple terms. So it's like lightning hitting the Earth and how it affects human health. And they use it to study to just electricity in general on Earth, but also how it affects human health. And in a spiritual essence, also, mind you, lightning is also, it can be affected by solar activity and stuff like that. So a lot of times what I've noticed with the Schumann resonance is that it's very in alignment with the astrological transits and like what's going on in astrology. And I always thought that was pretty interesting because I would look at I would look at the Schumann resonance and I would like be able to like examine the chart, and I would look at one of my astrology sources or people I follow, and it's all in alignment. It's really interesting. So basically what people use it for is not only human health and to study like the weather and the electricity on Earth, but a lot of people use it in a spiritual essence. And this goes into like subjects of like energy alchemy and stuff like that, right? And also things like meditation. So like looking at like I look at the chart every day. I also have my updates on it, but so like the chart, you can see where like what parts of your chakras, like which chakras you should meditate on that day based off of the stitching, based off of how the chart is that day. It's updated every like I think 12 hours or something. It's updated regularly, and I use the Albanian chart, and it's going to be off by a few hours, but there's also the Italian graph, and the Italian graph is a little bit different, but I'm going to stick to like the basic one, which is in Albanian time. So depending on where you live, it could be like a few hours difference, basically. And it shows the hours of the day. Yeah, so to keep it simple, what I'm referring to is the spectrogram, and the spectrogram is the electromagnetic or the electric activity of Earth. There's also the electromagnetic background level, which is the heartbeat of Mother Earth. But to stick to the spectrogram, basically how the stitching comes through can show what kind of energy is being released, focused on, and like what chakras are being activated. So the chart's background is blue. Blue is homeostasis, which means the body is maintaining a stable environment. And the stitching that comes through that's green is ideal, right? And that's pretty normal. That's usually how it will look, kind of, but it's always changing. And I've seen things on it that I don't really understand, and not a lot of people online did either. But the green stitching is release energy, right? And anytime there's green, like the stitching that goes down is release energy. It depends how the stitching looks. That's how you determine if whether it's release, integration. But the blue is homeostasis. If there's a lot of blue in the chart and there's like just a little bit of green stitching, that means that we could typically feel a little bit out of it, a little bit low energy. We could feel like even lightheaded. That's kind of in like a very like autopilot place for humans. And whenever there's like green release, depending on how the stitching looks, that's energy to like release. So like whenever the green stitching comes through, people might tend to feel a little bit more reactive to other people, and however the stitching is shaped and what colors are involved in it, it can mean different things. If there's red, that's like blockages. If there's yellow, that could be a very like transformative energy, but it really depends on how the stitching is coming through. The white would represent 5D and like God consciousness. Whenever there's a lot of white stitching, depending on how it's coming out. So from February 10th, 2025 to February 13th, these were the charts of the Schumann resonance spectrogram. Do you see how it's all like white? I mean, the chart has seen crazier times and crazier days. Like, I could go on and on, but I want to keep this like micro. So all of that release energy is massive. I mean, it is just like pouring down. in our auric field, and we're not able to integrate that kind of energy for a very, very long time to figure out kind of what it means, because there's so much. But based off the stitching, whenever there's a lot of curves at the bottom of like big release energy like that, someone said it in very simple terms. I'm gonna kind of like use it. I wish I could remember who said it. There's not a big community, sadly, but whenever it's curved at the bottom like that, they kind of explained it in a way of like it's in like the universe's hands. That release energy was kind of curved on some of the days, but we're not going to be able to integrate what that energy like really did for us, because in that chart, when all of the colors were pretty much present, it was activating every single chakra. So just to rewind and simplify it, whenever there's minimal release energy and there's just like green, maybe a little bit of yellow, that'll activate like the heart chakra. The green represents the 3D. That represents like our 3D world, right? And whenever there's release energy from that, it would be like the heart. So let's say, for example, there's stitching that has hues of like yellow and orange and stuff like that, and it's coming out of green stitching. That could be like the heart and the sacral. Depending on how the stitching looks, that could make someone want to reach out to an old friend. There's a lot of different aspects to it. Whenever there's a lot of blue, we feel like out of it and weird. Whenever there's random spikes of release energy, that is like a huge pull. And if we're asleep when it happens, it could affect our dream state. And depending on what chakras are coming through with the releases and the pushes, it could affect our dream state in the sense of whatever that chakra represents. So if there's like the heart and the sacral and the crown coming through with a release energy, specifically release, that could make us have a lot of like memories and thoughts about people from our past that we maybe had sexual entanglements with. So I've seen stitching that represented like reevaluating our friendships and our close dynamics to see if they're coming from a good place or not, because there was a lot of heart chakra releases that day. Whenever there's like a whole lot of stitching, sometimes we don't always really know what it means, because the stitching is a surprise. It's updated every 12 hours or something. Like there's stitching today that I really don't know what that could mean. I think we're in an integration period, so who knows. But there's also periods when the chart might be black. Sometimes it has been a technical error just because of the way it came out in the chart. Sometimes there'll be a lot of lightning and then it'll be a blackout. For example, on New Year's, there was a huge energy blackout, and the energy on New Year's was insane. And then the chart was black for a few days. The blackout period on the Schumann resonance spectrogram is a timeline jump. And that is a really powerful time. Usually I feel like I've seen it whenever there's a lot of activity. I know that there has been timeline jumps in massive periods of homeostasis where there's like no activity. There's been days when there was probably like 2 lightning strikes on Earth, I swear, and the Schumann resonance was just blue. That's a very like integrative period, but it's also kind of like a spiritual purgatory. Depending on what was going on with the spectrogram in like the previous days, that can mean several different things. Typically, that's just how we feel when there's a lot of blue. A lot of times when there's like yellow, some people can feel energized, some people can feel anxious. So it really just depends on your auric field and like your biological things too. But yeah, so basically the blackout period, it usually does end. I don't think that the spectrogram, I've seen it go through crazy things, but I think that the spectrogram, usually when there's a blackout period, it'll be really long, and sometimes it'll be a technical error just because of like it's a little tiny sliver, and usually that's just something wrong with the monitors. But the blackout periods will be long, and that's a timeline jump. And if you wake up in the morning and there's a lot of blue, there's a lot of homeostasis, you can like alchemize that energy. You know what I'm saying? Like not really push yourself to work too hard. Or if there's a lot of like white, which is like 5D consciousness, 5D light coding, you know, like alchemizing that energy is one thing too. If there's a lot of like releases around like the heart and the sacral and like the crown, and you want to call your ex, a way to alchemize that energy would be to like evaluate the feelings depending on how the stitching came out. These are just examples, but it's frequently changing, and you can know what chakras to meditate and work on that day based off of what the releases are showing you. Whenever there's a lot of blocked energy, that can be very negative, evil energy. Some people believe that. I just see it as a blockage because I don't think that, like, I mean, I'm not gonna, like, I'm gonna leave that out of it because, like, not trying to get to it. I'm trying to stay unbiased, but I do feel like negative energy is a choice. So I like to see it as like a blockage where we're having a hard time integrating our highest self and our highest energy. I'm gonna leave it there just because it's such a massive topic, and there's not a lot out there to learn. I've had to go high and low to learn just what I know. It's very difficult. So yeah, I'm probably going to touch on the subject a little bit more. I'm learning about it a lot. I'm like learning very fast about it because it just interests me. So I'll probably keep this on my YouTube, just kind of like keep it a journey. But yeah, look into the Schumann resonance. Look at people that report updates. I would do daily updates, but I also sometimes I don't want to be on social media. I don't want to be tied to that. So, but if there's any type of like major thing going on in the chart, like recently, whenever we had all those releases with that chart where I showed you everything dragged, that was a recent thing. February 10th through the 13th is what I was showing. We were in integration period after that, and spiritually, I thought that would be kind of cool to recognize more and kind of talk about ways of alchemizing that energy and what it means. And it usually lines up with astrology. So yeah, I look forward to talking about this more. Thank you.